does a great idea come from? Well, it starts with a single spark. Something small but bright, maybe something only visible to one person. As Oliver boards Howard and Jonathan to sleep as he prepares songs for his producers who are on their way soon, question for you all. Is Moses Morris a name we should remember? You know, Howard's cousin who runs the sponsorships for State Farm Insurance? As Oliver has confidence and overlooks his killer cast to pull off this amazing musical, meanwhile, Charles and Mabel look at the cast as potential killers in Ben's death. Grab your hankies, everyone, because we are here to solve a murder. What's going on to all my Only Murders fans, and welcome back to my channel. We are back breaking down this third season, episode 3, which was titled Grab Your Hankies. As Oliver falls for a nanny, Mabel has a thing for an elephant man, and you better make sure to not be in Kimber's spotlight. We'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler breakdown, but first I want to talk to y'all in the comments. Let me know, what did you all think about this third episode? I have many theories I'm going to share with you all, but I want to know your predictions, your Easter eggs, your clues, your theories, all in the comments below. We got a lot to break down. Full spoilers ahead. As Oliver's got triplets, which, by the way, I want you all to remember the number 3 in today's breakdown. He's got triplets this time around for his Death, Rattle, Dazzle musical, but Donna, all she sees is zeros. As she suggests Oliver needs a showstopper song that will have people becoming addicts just to see this play. Now Oliver, he only has 3 days to make this happen. Meanwhile, Charles and Mabel are thinking what I was thinking after episode 1, which was someone failed in killing Ben at first, but came back to finish the job by pushing him to his death. But the question is, who, as they go one by one of the cast. Now I want to mention this because Charles kind of brushed it off, but he suggested that maybe someone poisoned Ben and maybe it dissipated shortly after, and Mabel knew exactly what he was talking about. Again, if you all remember my episode 1 breakdown, I had my theories of Mabel maybe being the killer, and maybe she has like a split personality, but they were referring to substernal colloid. Let's keep that in our notebooks to remember for future episodes. They bring up the potential relationship between Ben and Kimber after the public apology he gave to the cast the night of his death. Charles initially dismisses Kimber as the killer because the woman being the killer has been done before, as Mabel believes that whoever the killer is the one missing a handkerchief which was given to the cast opening night as a gift. Now I could personally see Ben and Kimber being in some type of romantic relationship because going back to episode 1 and when he first met her, he had mentioned something on the lines of we're in their first love scene, even though there wasn't an actual love scene in the play, and of course him saying sorry to her about making their relationship complicated. But I think that he was possibly interested in someone else, and I'll share that with you all a little bit later, as Mabel learns that she has been banned from rehearsals due to her investigating the murder, and Oliver doesn't want that stress because of his recent health scare, so the plan is for her to go to Ben's penthouse to search for some clues. Meanwhile, Charles' job is to discover the cast member who's mixing their hanky. As Mabel runs into Talbot in the elevator, who claims to be heading to Ben's place to pick up some equipment. Now, I know this was probably a throwaway line, but when Talbot said that his mom was insane because she named him that, here's my insane theory here. What if growing up he wanted to be a star and he never made it, but his mom killed someone thinking that she was helping his career, but instead she ruined it, and instead for being in movies now, he has to make them. Yes, I know that is a crazy idea, but I keep thinking about the death rattle story of a woman willing to kill to protect someone that she loved, and I feel like that's going to play a big part of who the actual killer is. But also, sticking on Talbot, we have to remember the relationship between him and Ben. I was thinking about, he was there to shoot a movie for Ben, and I keep thinking that Ben maybe had faked his death being a part of his movie, but then it ended up going wrong. But let me know what you all think about all my theories so far. As I digress, getting back into, as we see them looking inside Ben's place and Mabel is amazed, but I did notice a very brief shot of Ben behind her in this type of portrait, and the camera kind of focuses on that picture, but in particularly, he looks completely different, right? He has an interesting mustache. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a mustache, right? But I thought about some of the comments you all left in my video last week, and some of you all have brought up the point that in some of the earlier scenes in episode 1, you all think that Ben might have a twin because there were some shots where Ben had a tattoo and there were other shots when he didn't have a tattoo. So you all got me thinking that there might be a twin and possibly a triplet out there. Very interesting stuff, but I think that that was very intentional for them to focus on that picture. As Loretta, who has been missing from last week's episode, finally appears to rehearsals, she tells Oliver that Dickie has recently became her manager. And again, going back to my previous video, I had mentioned that I do feel as though Dickie and potentially Loretta are two people to keep an eye out for. And this is where kind of my head went when thinking about them two. So please stay with me in this rabbit hole. What if Ben's twin brother, claiming to be Ben, is working with Loretta, who used to babysit the twins, and Dickie was their older brother, and they came together to kill the real movie star Ben for unknown reasons right now, probably something involving money or jealousy. But then Loretta and Dickie decided to kill the fake Ben twin because he felt bad for killing his brother. He was going to the police. Yeah, that's where my head's at, but maybe somewhere in that crazy theory, the real Ben is still alive and he killed the fake Ben who was pretending to be him. I'm just playing with you all's theory with it being twins, and I think that there might be triplets. Again, remember the number 3 in this breakdown. We learned that Dickie's got Loretta an audition for a network show, which is a spin-off of Grey's Anatomy. Loretta, who actually believes in a musical, suggests that they should go big and wild if they're gonna make this play pop. Back with Talbot claiming to be looking for a missing boom mic and Mabel claiming to be looking for a signed headshot. Talbot addresses the elephant in the room and he knows that they're both there lying. They should go their separate ways, but then Dickie arrives. Now we see Dickie appears to be very upset about Ben's death as he throws something at a lamp, and as that is going on, we have Talbot and Mabel hiding in a closet. And this is the complete opposite of a long story short, as Talbot talks about his time filming overseas. He shares this sad story about an elephant, but the point of the story being he has to capture the story, as he tells Mabel that the night of Ben's death, Ben had took Talbot's camera, but he didn't realize that it was still recording, hence why Talbot was searching around this place. He now has that footage. Now I think it's pretty obvious or clear as day that they got chemistry. I'm talking about Talbot and Mabel, and I can see a potential romance brewing between the two, as we have Detective Mabel, who manages to take the actual footage from Talbot's pocket. Now back with Oliver and Charles, who, by the way, the rehearsal went pretty bad, but Charles takes this opportunity to bond with the cast, who wants to throw Oliver under the bus, with his permission of course, as Kimber mentions that she's been wanting to feel some type of emotion. She's been wanting to cry about the death of Ben, but she can't. Very interesting lines, which I think it's purposeful to make us think it's her, and we'll talk about her a little bit later. Meanwhile, Loretta stayed behind, and man, I swear, Meryl Streep is just perfect in everything she's in, as she has this really great scene with Oliver as they connect, and she is expressing what makes him special, and he plays the nanny lullaby scene. Very great moment there. As we have Dickie walking in again on another potential couple in the works, and he lets Loretta know that she got the part, and she has a guaranteed season picked up, but unfortunately it starts in a week and it requires her to go to LA during Oliver's play. But man, Oliver ain't here to celebrate long, as he rips the rug from under her and he tells her that she's under contract, and he stands by the decision and he won't let her pursue her dreams. Man, Oliver, what a dream crusher in that moment. As we cut to Detective Mabel, yes, I said detective because I do believe she will be a detective by the end of this season. I mean, just look at the way she's dressed in this scene, as she needs Talbot to give her the password to unlock the footage, and she shares with him that Greg wasn't the killer of Ben, and Talbot agrees to help her, and he doesn't want to stand by and watch like he did in his elephant story, as it now appears that we have a new member, a part of the murder-solving crew. Now we end this episode with Charles telling Oliver that the cast doesn't want to do the musical, as Loretta arrives and she's prepared for the pitch in the musical for Donna and Clifton. Oliver breaks his contract with Loretta and he wants her to perform the nanny lullaby for the producers that will be arriving pretty soon. Now, Loretta beautifully performs the Nanny song, and Clifford convinces his mom that they should do the musical because he loves it. Now, we see that Talbot and Mabel are looking at this footage, and Ben is talking to a mysterious person. He tells this person they're not supposed to be there, they're not sweet, they're mad. He wants this person so badly, but they can't do this because it's going to ruin his career. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when they played that scene, I was screaming at the screen, who is he talking to? Obviously, they couldn't reveal that so early, but we see Loretta reveals to Oliver that she's going to be staying. They kiss as Charles tries to get the hanky from Kimber, as she tells him, oh, she must have thrown it away or donated it for a good cause. As we see Charles texts Mabel the news, Kimber doesn't have her hanky. I'll give a shout out to my man Charles. Now, it took him to the end of the episode to find out, but he eventually got it done. Now, as we end this episode, we see them having this joining duet between Loretta and Kimber, and it is revealed that the person talking at the beginning of this episode was actually Kimber. Now, was it me, or did the camera intentionally focus on 3 people in this last scene? One of them being Kimber and the other 2 being Loretta, who kept looking at Dickie when she was singing. And I can't leave out earlier in this episode when she told Oliver about the news of Dickie being her manager, she said that Dickie was sweet. Is there a romance going on between Dickie and Loretta, going back to my nanny and her babysitting the twins? But we end up with the quote being saying, when there is a spark that finally catches fire and everyone sees it, the only place you want to be is at the center of that fire. But what if one person is shining a bit brighter than the others? Sometimes you can't help it because it's a competitive business and you may have to stuff them out. And she looks at Loretta, who's clearly now the new lead of the musical. Can't be that simple, right? An unforbidden love gone wrong between Ben and Kimber, who wants the spotlight and he took it from her. It can't be that simple, right? Now, maybe she could have had someone kill Ben potentially, but I'm thinking a little bit more bigger than that, right? I think there's a bigger thing going on. I want to go back to this musical now having triplets, not having 2 killers like we've had in some previous seasons. Like, obviously, season 1, we had a killer being Jan. Season 2, we obviously had 2 killers, Becky and her detective boyfriend. What if we have 3 killers this time around? And right now, my 3 killers, again, putting my theory aside for a second with the twins and the triplets and Dickie being involved, but what if we're looking at Kimber, Loretta, and I said it last week, KT? The reason I keep bringing up KT is because we had her being seen as the person that has access to the hair and makeup and the design of the set, which would explain how she was able to get access to being in Ben's dressing room. What if it was her that he was talking to? I can't be with you because it can ruin my career. A movie star dating a set designer that's probably a nobody in some's eyes. But also, I want to go back to the beginning of this episode when they showed us the previously on. They intentionally showed the scene with KT, who had the hanky in her hand after they go to that after party. So I have some suspicions about KT, y'all. Let me know if you all are feeling the same thing. But going back to my whole theme of the number 3, this being the 3rd season. Again, season 1 we had 1 killer, season 2 we had 2 killers, now season 3 we might have 3, and this is me going back to my whole triplet thing. Ben and Loretta, her being the nanny. And listen, going back to my man Paul Rudd, he has a history of playing multiple versions of himself. With the recent film with Marvel, with the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium, there was many versions of him in that film. But also, if you all have ever seen the Netflix series Living With Yourself, he played a clone of himself. So it doesn't seem too far out of the possibilities of Paul Rudd wanting to play maybe 1 or 2 versions of himself in this new season. Now, a couple more things I want to point out before I give you all my overall thoughts of this episode, which I love. This was a very intimate and romantic episode. I think about how close these characters were in the episode, right? Whether it is Talbot and Mabel being close in that closet, you have Oliver and Loretta obviously getting really close with kissing this episode. But there is this theme that I keep thinking about, and that is bad relationships ending with someone dying. Obviously, in season 1, we had the angle where someone was dating the killer, that being Charles Charles and Jan, and obviously Jan, who was dating Tim and ended up killing him. Then we have the whole fake out dating the killer thing with Mabel and Oscar, and also Mabel and Alice. And this time around, we have two new potential relationships being set up with Oliver and Loretta, and Mabel and potentially Talbert. Will that trend continue in this season? And last thing I have in my notes here, the name Moses Morris, who was mentioned twice in this episode, again, being the cousin of Howard who works for the sponsorships of State Farm. This goes back to my theory of this being some type of insurance claim in episode 2. So check out that video if you want to get more of my thoughts of the whole insurance thing. But I think this Morris character might play a big role moving forward. So overall, y'all, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it was very intimate, very romantic. It had a really great build up to the idea of us right now thinking that Kimber had something to do with it, which I'm not discounting, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. I do think KT has something to be with this. And again, my crazy theory of Talbert's mom, but also twins, triplets, are still on the table. Listen, y'all, I love this show. I love interacting with you all. So before we wrap this thing up, make sure to leave your theories, your predictions, your deeper meanings, your Easter eggs, your clues, all in the comments. Spam the comments away. Thank you for watching today's breakdown. Remember to consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of my Only Murders in the Buildings content. Also, make sure to check out all my reviews for the show. Check out my most recent review, and I'll catch you all on the next breakdown.